You have got a lot of jobs. That is sort of the first thing to say about you. You are the MP for Wairarapa. You are Deputy Leader of the House, Minister for Emergency Management, Racing, Regional Development, Rural Communities, Local Government, Ministerial Lead for Cyclone Recovery in the Hawke's Bay, Tararua and the Wairarapa regions. And there's another role that you've been touted for this week, which is Leader in Opposition if Chris Hipkins can't get there in October.
Yeah, that one made me laugh. I can say to you right now, I'm not interested. Couldn't be less interested.
It is sort of the kiss of death, isn't it? But why do you think that you were singled out?
Well, first of all, I don't think we're going to go into opposition. And second of all, I'm relieved to hear that it's the kiss of death, because hopefully that just kills the whole thing off and I don't have to worry about it. Not
interested at all?
No, not in the slightest.
Why not?
Well, not everybody that comes in here wants to be PM. It's true, there's 120 MPs. And you can't tell me that all of them want to be the Prime Minister, and I'm one of those. I genuinely, all I wanted to do was be the MP for my home region, and the last 3 years have been the privilege of my life. I never expected to be a minister. Obviously, you say, oh, well, if it comes along, you're not going to say no, and it did, and I didn't. And I'm enjoying it, but this is as far as I ever thought I'd get, and I'm happy where I am.
Well, you're Minister of quite a lot of stuff, so
yeah,
you really
it's pretty full on. I'll be
yeah.
honest, it's all go.
It strikes me, you know, that part of your appeal is that you're a straight talker, you connect with everyday New Zealanders, and that's part of the reason I think that you stand out or that you're noticed. But I wondered, what does that say about the Labour Party? Is that something that the Labour Party has drifted from?
No, I don't think so. If you look at who's in the caucus, you've got people like Dan Rosewarne, who until recently was a serving soldier. We've got tradespeople, we've got people with business backgrounds, farming backgrounds, those from teaching and lawyers and all that sort of stuff. We're diverse, just like New Zealand.
But the high-profile ones, politicians, you're different to them. You know, your superpower is that you are sort of an anti-politician. And it strikes me that that is the reason that people are drawn to you or that you stand out. Do you see that about yourself?
No, I just don't know many big words. I think that's the difference. Like, you know, I love this job. It's an awesome thing to do, a massive privilege. You know, when someone comes into our office in Masterton and they've had a string of bad luck, and we find them a house, or we help them get financial support, or help them with ACC, or just recently I got funding for new trains for the region. That's massive, you know, and that's what I love about this. I don't know why I've stood out. I try not to think about it because it makes me feel uncomfortable. And at the end of the day, I just love playing cricket and hanging out with my family and my mates and doing stuff for my region.
Well, that's why people like you. You're making it worse, Kieran, not better.
It's just not going to happen.
Well, let's focus on the jobs that you currently have now. The cyclone recovery, that is a massive one for those regions. It's been, you know, I suppose you could say it's been a bit of a shit show in Cabinet recently in terms of the turnover of ministers and the fact that you've now been through, you were the fourth, I think, are you the fourth minister?
Third.
The third minister.
So it's not that bad.
Okay, well, you know, it's still not good. But the third minister in that region, at a time that is really critical for them, is that disruptive to the response?
It hasn't actually been. I think it could have the potential to be, but it hasn't worked out that way. I mean, we committed to a regionally led response and still stand by that, because that's how civil defence works in New Zealand.
Yeah, but you're not of that region.
Part of Hawke's Bay is in my electorate.
A small part.
Nevertheless, as a result of...
You'll claim that.
Well...
but if that was the thrust, right, was a regionally led response, and you've been through two ministers there, one in Tairāwhiti, now you have Grant Robertson running it from Wellington and you from the Wairarapa, the edge of the region, that's no longer a regionally led response, really, is it?
Well, what we mean by regionally led is led by the region, not by a regionally based minister.
Well, that's what you meant in the outset, though.
No, I disagree. It's the local councils and the local agencies telling their designated minister what they need, and then it's the minister's job to go and get it. And that's how we've gone about it the whole way. Yeah,
well, we are 6 months on from the cyclone now, and we've still got people living in caravans, in emergency housing, still using portaloos. 6 months using a portaloo. I mean, it hasn't moved fast enough for some people, has it?
I don't blame them for thinking that, because of course you would. It's only the third time that we've ever had a national state of emergency, every step of the way we've had in mind that what we're doing now is essentially going to be the blueprint for what we do for the next event. And frankly, there's going to be plenty more.
Yes, but has that slowed it down?
I don't think so. These weather events are going to happen more frequently.
Yeah, and this is the major difference, isn't it, between Christchurch, which was classified kind of as a one-off event, which is why the government bought out those properties at 100%, and these regions, that's why you've landed on 50, is because it probably will keep happening, and you can't keep buying out properties at 100% each time.
Well, whether you intend to or not, you essentially set a precedent, and that's going to apply moving forward.
Yeah, well, some of the words that people use to describe the uncertainty are crippling and paralysing, and it is your job to sit in Cabinet and advocate for those people and their situations, to drive those entities out in the regions and council and bring it all together. But what is your message to those people who are still living in limbo now, who are looking to you as their advocate here in this place?
We have their back, and we're going to make sure that things are okay. I'm as frustrated as anyone because these things take longer than anyone wants.
But there's no real timeline for these people, is there? There's nothing that you can tell them about a timeline.
We're not going to lie to them, and we're not going to mislead them. If we knew how long it would take, we'd let them know, but we don't. And right throughout, we've tried to be upfront.
Well, a quick question just on that, but have you got bipartisan support for the packages that you have put in place already? Or is there a chance that if you don't do it in October, that the next government could come along and change it, undo it, do something different, that it might be set back again?
I really hope not. Like I said earlier, I don't think the government will change, but
have you got that bipartisan support?
Well, you can sort of get a steer. I mean, I've got good relationships with the likes of Chris
You don't, do you? It doesn't sound like you do.
At no point have they said you're doing the wrong thing in terms of the levels of support, but they have asked questions about certain other aspects of it. But I hope they don't change the support, because what the sector's told us...
So rather than hope they don't change, why not get that bipartisan support at the time?
Well, ultimately, that's a decision for them. I can't predict what they're going to do.
Did you go to them?
We have been engaging with them throughout the response. In terms of the recovery, they've been informed of what's happening, but I don't believe, keeping in mind these haven't been my decisions as minister, they've been other ministers, but I don't believe that they have been, their support has been sought for that. Decisions have been made alongside the regions and alongside the sectors, but certainty is key here, because they know where they stand now, they know the support that's there, and they're making informed decisions that are best for themselves, their families and their businesses. The worst thing that could happen now is that support package is changing everything they've got in place.
That's why bipartisan support for what you've put in place would have been really good.
Well, what I've found in this place is if people don't like what you're doing, they'll let you know pretty quick.
Okay, I want to talk about lessons learned from Cyclone Gabrielle. And you've got a review going on into the emergency response. That's due to report back in March next year, I think?
Yeah.
Why does it take over a year to do a review? You know, don't the lessons need to be learned? It seems like a sanitised kind of process. It's sort of a little cynical. It gets kicked out till after the election. It's after the period of current interest. Why not learn the lessons, sort it out, move on, rather than this big sort of convoluted over a year-long process?
There's one portfolio in this place where there isn't any room for politics or cynicism, and that's emergency management. We work incredibly constructively with all parties on this because you've got to get it right. We're in the process, we were due to introduce an emergency management bill in the House, ironically the week that Gabrielle hit. And what that bill is proposing is changes that have come about from previous reviews that have looked at Christchurch and Kaikoura and other previous events.
Well, those were years ago.
Yes.
So why does it take years to make those changes? Because the same thing could happen again today.
It could. And there's every chance that we can improve the bill because from the lessons from Gabrielle, which is why we've timed it like we have.
But
the select committee is...
But this is emergency management.
Yes.
Emergency is urgent. Mm-hmm. And yet you're talking about introducing a bill that goes back to Christchurch and Kaikoura?
There's lessons that have come out from those that have gone through various reviews that have come from the previous government and this government.
But that's what I'm saying is the problem is this culture of review. Why not just learn the lessons, enact the changes, get the systems up to scratch and move on. Well, this is a sort of culture of review.
If we weren't taking this seriously, I'd take your point. But to my original point is that there's a real culture in civil defence and emergency management in this country that they are always looking to improve, and it's the thing that impresses me the most. They do a review after every single event, no matter how small, to look how to improve.
So where's the disconnect then? Because why aren't those changes being implemented and running through this place? Is that the disconnect, this place?
Not all changes require a law change.
Okay.
And so after every event, no matter how small, they do a review and they make changes.
So has that happened around Gabrielle?
Well, some things have already. There's been improvements over the response. It was responding better to each individual region, even just after a couple of days than it was initially. But some things require law changes, and that's the process that's going through at the moment. There's no point passing this bill, knowing that there's lessons from Gabrielle, and then we might have to wait who knows how long to put that into law. Let's just do it all at once.
I have to be totally frank with you, and that sounds like a bureaucratic nightmare, a long process, sort of review on review on review, and now you might get your sort of omnibus bill through at the same time, but that doesn't seem to me to be the way that you like to operate.
Well, this is how I set it up. So
I thought you were a guy who liked to get things done.
And I am. We know that this is the biggest weather event we've ever had. There definitely will be lessons. I don't want to miss this opportunity, so I've timed it so that when Sir Jerry and his panel report back, they will identify lessons. I'm not going to muck around. I'm just going to put them straight into the bill, pass it, and then it's all in place.
Well, something that the Nats are definitely going to repeal is the Three Waters legislation if they get in. Are we still calling it Three Waters?
It's affordable water now.
Affordable water. Okay, affordable water. Well, they're going to repeal it, aren't they?
I don't believe them.
You don't? Why not? You think they're bluffing?
I think they're participating in politics, but I don't think that they will, and I'll tell you why, is because they are campaigning as if there's been no changes made. And what they're proposing is the status quo, which the local government sector don't want. We can prove what we're doing will save ratepayers money. They can't, because their policy is the status quo. And every council in the country, bar possibly one or two, have told me that they can't do it by themselves. So there'll be just as much backlash on what they're proposing as there was on our original proposal.
Well, there was a lot of backlash.
But people are comfortable with it now.
But it's been a dog of a process, hasn't it? This all started in 2016. We're in 2023 now.
Oh, well, I love a challenge.
Clearly. Do you like the idea of 10 entities, though?
Well, I do, but it's not as efficient as 4. But we weren't going to get 4 across the line. And look, I'm pragmatic. You know, I know what we're trying to achieve. Let's just find the best way to do it that gets it across the line. Do I think there'll be 10 entities in 20 years' time? No, there'll be fewer. But we've made sure that has to be a local choice. That's not going to come from government.
Okay, just finally, with all of your jobs, are you going to keep Wairarapa?
I hope so. I really do. Your job means a lot to me.